Hey everybody, this is my tour of the Presbyterian Cemetery over in Riley. I just took a picture of the sky here to look at. Just was a nice sunny blue sky kind of day. I parked a little bit far away from the cemetery, so this is me taking pictures of the road towards it. You can kind of see the historical sign in the background. I think I may have gotten the pictures out of order, and that's why it looks like I'm going farther. It's getting farther away instead of closer. Let's see. I took a picture of the house next door to the cemetery. Wouldn't it be so weird to live next to a really old cemetery? And there I am coming towards the cemetery grounds, and you can see the sign and all the lots of trees there. It was a hot summer day that day. There it is, the historic Presbyterian Cemetery. I think it says established in 1815. I kind of can't see it too well from here. Bethel Chapel, 1850 to 1873, and it gives you some information about the guy who was ordained a minister there. Some of the stones are now embedded in the ground. They can still be read, but they're in the ground. I guess I don't know if they're ever going to make an effort to, they're just going to leave them there, if they're going to make an effort to reset them back up. Okay. Playing with my thing. I'm seeing if I can make the pictures bigger since I'm doing what I'm doing here. Maybe I can. Who knows? Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so there's a row. You kind of see it's fairly orderly cemetery. You know, there were rows and things. I can't see. Jimmy? Looks like son. Hopefully the pictures look clearer than they do right now. But I took a lot of pictures. James Whitcomb, son of James and June, died September 7th, 1842. And yeah, he had some nice, the little circle with the artwork in the top there for his headstone. Yeah, some of the artworks you can tell, I guess there was sort of a universal theme that happened. I think everybody would have that certain thing. Babies usually had lambs for their stones. December, looks like either 23rd, 1850. Oh, December 25th. Died on Christmas Day. I can't make out the stone. And there was a stone that was leaning up against a tree. One of the trees, I think it's a evergreen. Evergreens are usually planted in graveyards because evergreens represent immortality. That was the back side of that stone, and it had some stuff that had been left over by a tree or plant or something that's just been left there. Then there's the front of it. Clark. Sorry, I can't read. I'm not a historian on the area, so I'm not a real. I mean, hopefully these pictures are good enough, and you can enjoy the images and hopefully see what you're looking at well. Looks like I tried to get a closer shot of that one where the top's broken off and it's in the ground, and I guess they're not gonna do anything about restoring it. I don't know if they could. There's only so much they could do. I mean, in terms of they'd have to put a little extra bit of concrete in the middle, I guess, in between the two broken pieces. But yeah, there's some stones that are in the ground, and looks like they're going to get left in the ground there. So, and there's stones that are still in good shape, like these two here, and you can. They're still legible. You can read what's on them. I went for a bit closer shot there. Okay. Not a professional photographer either, so. Another row of stones here. Yeah, it looks like they just, whoever, this graveyard, they planted a lot of evergreens there, and then there's the cornfield in the background. I'm not sure, there wasn't a church on the site at one point. They said there was the log cabin, I guess, or the log cabin meeting house, I guess. See, handshaking there. Mary something? Wife of, I can't read it. Adam Bohan, maybe? Died September 11th, 1873, aged 32 years. A lot of these folks that there's a War of 1812 veteran there, buried there. A lot of these folks died at our age. Like, I'm 35, and that seemed like wasn't a terribly uncommon age for people to pass away. People living into their 70s and 80s was much more rare. Things like polio and things that we have vaccines for that we don't even think about anymore, or would paralyze people, and these diseases and stuff. Theodore Roosevelt, no, was it Theodore? Or was it Franklin? No, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was paralyzed by polio, and that was into the 1940s. So this was about 100 years before that. So people were definitely harder times, and mortality rates were probably a lot higher. People died earlier in life for sure. Like I said, it was surprising how many of these stones were people were only like 40 years old and they passed away. A bunch of stones lined up in the ground there. Honestly, I probably need a better camera. I'm not even sure the new one I bought's. It's supposed to be 20 megapixels, but I don't know. If you want a good camera, you probably have to pay money for it. Then towards the, if you're coming from the side I came from towards the back, there's a lot more stones. There's the big tall one there. It even has a fence around it. Sacred something Elizabeth. Say consort. I don't know. Yeah, big tall stone. I'm sorry, I can't read it. This documentary's not what I hoped it would be, of course. I mean, I definitely didn't do any big time historical research. I'm sure someone else much more qualified could and should. Maybe this video will be motivation for that person, if nothing else. Let's say Elizabeth Ross. There were a lot of Ross people with the last name Ross, and I'm not sure our town of Ross that we have here, and Ross schools and things aren't named after these folks. Sacred to the memory of Maxwell Ross, who died June 18th, 1838, aged 54 years. Mariah. James Dick. It's a real nice stone. I think those guys were rich because the big tall stone there is also, I think his last name is also Dick. So they have, those people were probably more well off. But yeah, the stones they're still in decent order. There and towards the back, and then the ones towards the front look like they suffered more abuse or whatever it is. But it's nice that the state has got the place, recognized as a historical spot. So it's a good place to take in some history that way. Jacob Denman, I think, June 5th, let's say 1782, maybe. Looks like there must have been a family plot there. Some stones that are on the ground, some stones that are being held up by the fence. So usually that kind of fencing off means it belonged to a specific person, and they obviously had a tree planted there. The Rosses, yeah. I can't read the name. But the Rosses must have been well-to-do as well. Must have been another, I guess that other side of the cemetery, probably the more wealthy people must have been buried at, maybe, or something, I guess. Or maybe their stones have just been lucky enough to survive more. Excuse me, I'm doing this late at night when I'm tired. Ichabod Miller. Yeah, there's an Ichabod. Ichabod Crane, Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod was a Revolutionary War veteran. He obviously survived. Till 1786, if I'm reading that right, man. And there are more stones towards where the trees are. I'm trying to read that and I can't. And it seems like Google Photos does a good job of preserving your image quality, because when I put things on Facebook, the quality they don't leave it in high def or whatever, in high definition. The photos don't stay in their higher quality format. If nothing else, maybe this video can motivate some maybe more historical folks to make their own photo documentary and really explain who these people were more. I'm just going off of what I see, and big stones usually mean people with more money and fencing off, that kind of thing. And the fact that there are people by the last name of Ross here, and how I think of Ross, I think of Ross. I went to Ross local schools. How much that family might have, been well enough to have a town named after them. And then there's one of my angle shots that I took, and I was really planning on doing just a pictures and music thing, but I think talking is probably more interesting than just music and images and stuff. And I wanted to make it seem scary, but I don't know. In a way, maybe it's more respectful to do something historical, or at least as informed as I can share. It was neat to look at these old stones and stuff. I was thinking of Castlevania too at the time, and they have the stone for Dracula in that video game, and how it looks and the design on it. And if you play if you play Super Castlevania 4, you might notice it looks like they use that same stone design when the lightning strikes down and destroys the stone, and the bat comes up out of the stone to represent the resurrected Dracula. James Beattie died February 26, 1863, aged 78 years, 5 months, and 13 days. They had it down to the days, how old the guy was. So that's pretty cool. And then his wife is buried next to him there. That's nice. So there's a stone in pieces that somebody lovingly, someone lovingly reconstructed as much as possible without actually standing the stone back up. So some of the stones, they're still good enough to where in the picture quality they're in, I can read them, but most of them are not, which is unfortunate. But yeah, if you have time, especially this being October right now, this would be a great time to go out and visit some old graveyards and learn their history and learn about the people, not just for the fantasy scares, but the real history of real people who have lived here and their contributions to the community, and what they meant, and some kind of understand what they did. And this one's got a lot of writing on it, and I'm sorry the picture quality isn't good enough to read it. Samuel Samuel Dick. And there was a sort of a poem kind of written on the bottom there. That day, what? Let's see, I can't read it. Yeah, just some of the stones are in the ground or they're kind of knocked over. Time passes and this is what happens. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy it. I hope I maybe motivated someone a little more in the know to make a better video, if nothing else, with this. Thanks a lot.